Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome and well zooming. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, we're a little bit behind schedule, but still, everybody's just as diligent and patiently waiting. Thank you very much. Let's get started with the renewal of our refuge in the true Dharma. And not just saying the words, but try to feel them in your core of your sense and your heart and your thoughtfulness to be in the Dharma, and also returning to Dharma and always looking into the through the Dharma how to understand situation that we often do not get to understand very well. So that's real refuge. Of course, by listening and studying is just like a charging the battery. Good. Make sure that you got a right socket. And it's called triple gem. It's got three holes. Okay, let's do the refuge. And for immeasurable, thank you, everybody. Oh, yenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Hajere Yajala Dhamma Bhavaja Haje Handala Ajare Buddha Duebe and Abu Dhamma Sangha Hajere Yajala Dhamma Bhavaja Haje Handala Ajare Buddha Duebe and Abu Dhamma Sangha Hajere Yajala Dhamma Bhavaja Haje Handala Ajare Buddha Duebe. Happiness and the cause of happiness may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering may they never be from the happiness that no suffering may they dwell equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to the near and far. May all beings have happiness, cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, and those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. God and Jalaja and prejudice possession of it, the Yajanda Dhamma Agrela Ekoma Ego. So, continuing our lesson number 4 of this part 2 teachings on the perfection of wisdom, which is a very important writing of Rongton Sheja Kunrig. Last week we concluded with this part of the practice of the perfection of patience, and we talked about how to armor your intention. Most importantly, even if you are really good situation to practice patience, but you've got to really check your intention. The intention is not to prove that you are better than them, or you're trying to prove that they are wrong and you're staying very right by not reacting. Not that kind of intention, but rather very altruistic intention. So armor the intention, and then once you're able to do that, you lay the good foundation of the Four Noble Truths. How does patience in relation to the Four Noble Truths is the actual, practicing patience itself is the noble truth of the path. And when you do practice patience, there will be no enmity, no anger, no resentment, no guilt. That is the truth of the cessation. When we don't practice the patience and that, of course, then the truth of suffering will remain. We will continue to feel hurt, wronged by others, and because of that we have resentment, ill will, and we lump the people with the action. We think doing is the cause of suffering, when we actually are doing the suffering. Our origin of suffering is not them. True origin of suffering is our enmity towards them and impatience toward them. So with this we always try to understand. This is particular Rongton's way of teaching the perfection of wisdom, is how to interplay the Four Noble Truths in each of the 6 perfections. So that way you will also learn how to relate with every other facets of life's difficulties. What aspects of that is the truth of suffering, what aspects of that is the true origin of suffering, what is the path to the, that leading to the actual noble truth of path, following the path that will eventually bring the cessation of the suffering. So it's very important to make relevant the understanding of the, for instance, practice of patience. Say you have some anger issue with someone or something in your life. You still couldn't really forgive yourself or forgive the other or the event. You still are really, just every time you think about it, you just go really, really look still injured. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. The truth of suffering is still there. The ember is under the ash. Outside there's no smoke. Outside there's a lot of that. So that's the truth of suffering. But people still think they have reason to keep that anger going, as if wrong deeds is done by the other to me. They're always pointing finger at someone who's done that. And that's not true origin. True origin of suffering is one's own impatience and ill will. So when one understands that, then one has refuge. People talk about whether you take refuge or not, whether you have a little haircut and little name. That's not refuge. That's just ceremony. Real refuge is you no longer think it's their fault. No, it's your fault. It's just not knowing how to practice safety for oneself and other, and then feel pity for both. This is not one person a victim and other is a kind of perpetrator. It's not like that. That's not refuge. It's how both is in the same boat, same dinghy boat that's half covered in water. And so it's not question is what they did to me and things like that. How both are drowning in the same boat. And then try to save both by practicing patience as the truth of the path. This is the way. And what does it mean? Be kind to you, be kind to them, and never think the same way as one used to about them, or don't talk to others as they are the one did this to me, or things like that. That's still injured. Person is still talking as someone who's injured, someone hard done by others. Who's no longer talking like that. Well, if you have refuge, truth of path, you follow the path, and you totally healed. You no longer think like that, speak like that, let alone believe the story. See? This is why we need to... because perfection wisdom, otherwise people think it's about emptiness or something, Of course it has got emptiness component of the teaching, but when you look at the Four Noble Truths, it's not about emptiness, Four Noble Truth is relative teaching. Relative teaching. What is the cause? What is the problem? What is the solution? And that. So that's the first part of the Heart Sutra, Toward the second part, and then there's no this, no that. When we go that, then that's a true part, true noble truth of cessation. And truth of cessation is when you truly understand emptiness. Anyway, so that's it's very important to relate to each of the practices in that context. Then you will really see how amazing the celebrated teacher and commentator Rongton was in Tibet. He is the teacher who had the highest number of disciples. He was contemporary to Tsongkhapa. Tsongkhapa did not have as many students as Rongton. But Tsongkhapa only had great followers later on who therefore, expanded their follower, particularly with the first Dalai Lama and the Panchen Lama. These are all much later, But prior to that, there was no Dalai Lama or Panchen Lama. It was Tsongkhapa's disciple's disciple became, who started the big, office of His Holiness Dalai Lama and Panchen Lama. They came only later on. We're talking about, late 14th century, early 15th century. And Rongton was such a celebrated scholar and contemporary to Tsongkhapa, and he had such an influence because of writings like this. People go, wow, how does he do that? He has a particular way of interpreting the teaching to make it really relevant to people like you and us, and you and me. So, I don't know who's us. You and you, you and you shouldn't be. People like us, we all having this communion together, fellowship, because Rongton puts the teaching in this way. But otherwise, you look at other perfection wisdom teachers, you can't understand it. They're going on and on about the very philosophical, dry ideas, and just seems like completely unnecessary. Try to refute some ancient schools and all and that kind of dialectical system. Rongton doesn't here talk about a single sentence who is wrong. He doesn't tell which is the school he's trying to refute. He's talking about your own wrong views. Your own wrong views that you're the victim, that someone is the perpetrator. That is what is pointing the Four Noble Truths, very important. Once you understand laying the foundation of Four Noble Truths, then you then engage yourself in the practice. Engage in the practice of the relevant practice, like perfection, like patience, or whatever the case might be. So now we come to the third point, which is how to practice patience by unification of method and wisdom. So this is very important. So you're talking about how the method, which is the compassion aspect of it, which is altruistic motivation, why you practice the compassion, and then, which most people's, the whole idea of emphasis, armoring your intention was so that your method is, with which you practice patience, is beneficial to others. So that's the method aspect of it. And the wisdom aspect of it is that as a result of you practicing patience, you've got to have the wisdom in practicing patience. You shouldn't be practicing patience because you are compassionate than other person. You're more patient than the other person, and they are the one who really instigated me, but I'm the one who has the power of patience, that kind of thing. Then you haven't got the wisdom. There is the alienation of method and wisdom, I did all the patient thing, he did all the instigation to me. Then there is your wisdom has completely alienated from method. So maybe there's no wisdom to alienate at all. If you have a bit of understanding of emptiness, should be brought in with the practice of the method. So that's why if patience is practiced along with the non-conceptual three circles, see, usually we are so conceptual. I'm the one who practiced patience. He's the one who said this to me. So we are conceptual in terms of object. He's the one who did this to me. And so nitpicking, and that is the conceptualization of the object. Who's causing me violence or aggression? And then I'm the one who practices patience. So one is then attached to the subjective conceptual. It's me who do all the hard lifting. I'm the one who's forgiving. He hasn't forgiven me even once. I've forgiven him so many times. So that is the conceptual grasping to the subject. Subjectively grasping to what patient one did, and objectively blaming someone who did the opposite. So these are objective grasping as the object, subjective grasping as oneself, and then third is the grasping to the action of practicing patience. So this is called three circle: subject, object, and the action. Action itself is patience. So if one has non-conceptual, if you practice non-conceptual three circles, meaning non-conceptual meaning neither of these three are conceivable by itself. You can't clap with one hand. Like that. You can't practice patience unless someone instigates you. So you can't say, I'm the one who's patient, but how do you know you got patience? Someone put a thermometer in your mouth and they tell you you're patient, or what? Are you talking? Patient can only be tested by someone who's instigating you or something, isn't it? So therefore, this mutual inclusivity is called mutual inclusivity is the method in wisdom. So if your practice of patience is non-conceptual three circles, non-conceptual three circle means you're not seeing either of them are exclusively it as the problem or solution. You can't have a solution without the problem. So therefore, they could not be mutually exclusive. They're mutually inclusive. This mutual inclusivity is called non-conceptual three circles: subject, object, action. The perfection patient that does not abide in the extremes of cycle existence. Meaning it doesn't become samsaric patience. Because otherwise, you wouldn't believe how many times I put up with this guy, I did this, and then you tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your neighbors, and then try to always say how bad the other one is, how good one is. So when one is doing that, then you're falling into the extremes of samsara. So that's where the method and wisdom is alienated. So they are being separated. So unification method of wisdom is if patience is practiced with compassion for the benefit of others. Benefit of others. So usually we practice patience thinking for the benefit of others, and then we say, I'm the one who benefited him by practicing patience. And then one thinks that one is the rescuer, One should have the medal. That is the kind of one that makes us to fall into samsara. So the patient that practices, when we practice patience that does not abide in extremes of nirvana, is you thinking everything is empty, as you don't need to practice patience. Other person, didn't cause any practice patience. Yeah, they also actually cause your patience. So your patient is totally dependent on other people's instigation. Their suffering, their kind of weakness has caused you to practice patience, and so therefore, your practice of patience is not truly existing, but independently existing, but it is only dependently existing in terms of to allay the sorrow and problems of others. So out of compassion, you don't say, there's nothing to practice patience. If you become nihilistic, you're falling into extremes of nihilism because you think everything's empty. There's nothing to practice. So that's a danger number 2, So here we don't. In order for us to stuck in the pit of nirvana, we actually practice compassionately patience for the sake of others. And at the same time, we bring the understanding of emptiness, that what I did is not truly existing. What I did is totally dependent on the the harm and difficulties that they have caused to me and them, and how therefore their harm is not independently harmful if I bring the right kind of mix to it. By meditating on this, you neither fall into the samsara by saying I practice patience, he didn't, nor fall into nirvana thinking there's nothing to practice patience, and then things you don't have to do the actual patient thing, So one need to practice patience, and when you read Perfection of Wisdom, it says no this, but it's actually it's the wrong way of practicing. It's saying no, but there is always a correct way of practicing patience. You need to practice patience. But as soon as you practice patience, we say, wait a minute, by the way, don't give the entire credit to yourself. Thank you for reminding me that. and so on, so with that. So therefore, that is the third point, which is called meditating on the three circles. Meditating on the three circles and their interdependence. That is here called how to combine the method and wisdom together. So the method and wisdom, right and left wing, so to speak, method and wisdom, they are mutually inclusive, necessary, and there's neither of these two practices are mutually exclusive. So it's not just talking about method and wisdom is mutually inclusive, but even the harm and harmed are both mutually inclusive, because you could not be harmed unless the harmer exists. Harmer could not independently exist unless there is something to harmed exist. So when you do that, so like say if I'm swearing a bad word, in this empty room, then nobody's feel abuse, Nobody feel abused. Maybe some demons will. But if there's anybody in this room, and if I'm yelling at them, they would be harmed. So I couldn't harm anybody by myself, unless I have an object to yell to or whatever. So there's no independently harming. So it's all dependent. By being able to do that, then actually almost cancels the inherent existence. Independent existence. So that means everything happens due to causes and conditions, and that is the cause of compassion. Why most people don't see how everything's interdependently originated, and they don't see that. They always want to single out someone as the true cause of the problem. And that gets into more problem than anything it solves. When you have the wisdom, then you accept some share of your own responsibility, and then also you pardon some of their share of. By the time you have taken your share of responsibility, there's not a lot of big problem left really, So then you realize, by the time I take my share of all this poor me mentality, then all the problems is like it's pretty much doesn't really exist. A huge problem there. See, that is unification method and wisdom. Yeah. You're not totally negligent of your duty. You're also not thinking it's all fault of others. So you combine together, and you just it's like comprehensive insurance policy. In Australian car industry, third party comprehensive insurance policy. It's very good. Peace of mind for both parties. just exchange the license. That's all you do. And you don't get at each other, blaming, throwing stone at each other like in India they do, because neither of them are insured. See, insurance policy we're talking about. This armoring the intention is about insurance, insuring your mind so that you do not make the problem bigger than they need to be, because you can see the empty of inherent existence of fault at you or the other, or even the combination of it. Even the combination of the problem makes all interdependent originated. Okay, good. Now we want to move to the next point, which is how to combine these practice of patience with 4 practices. These 4 practices are You should remember by this time. The first is armored practice, armored practice. The second is the engaged practice, and third is the meritorious practice. Fourth is the renunciation practice. So this you must remember, because these are relevant to every one of the 6 perfections. So first one is the armored practice. Is that when you are first of the 4 practices? First is armored practices. That when you practice patience, you need to have amazingly good determination to practice patience like the earth, and a very good, very consistent motivation, good intentional practice like the gold. Not sometimes you feel like patient, other times you don't feel like, I don't want to practice patience. This month is very Sagadava, so I try very hard. And as soon as Sagadava elapses, you say, oh, no. Not that kind of, 1 month gold, next month brass. Not like that. Every month the gold like. So the goal intention to practice patience must be always consistent like that. And then if you practice patience yesterday, tomorrow is better. Tomorrow's even better. If you patient over this issue, next time when the problem gets a little bit severer, you get even more. So that's like a waxing moon. If you have these 3 facets of the qualities, then it's armored practice. Your intention is completely armored. Then the actual practice patience, which we already talked about in length before, practice of what you call voluntarily accepting the suffering that requires during practicing patience. Practicing patience means actually never minding the sufferings, accepting the suffering for whatever it is, thinking it will wash your karma, it will remedy your pride. It will make your refuge revalidated. Very good. Your refuge get revalidated, It's been actually probably much better than saying refuge prayer 3 times, I think. Don't you think? You practice patience. Much better than reciting refuge prayer 3 times. If you practice patience, it's revalidate your refuge, So you can see it's a real practice. Real practice of patience is the engaged practice. Engaging the practice patience. And then the third one is, but when you practice patience, particularly combining compassion and wisdom together, that's the most meritorious things. Even you buy, $500 worth of grocery, bring it to the shrine, heap them up on the table, looks very impressive. Everybody say, wow. Even that wouldn't match your practice of patient merit, Most meritorious practice is practicing patient merit, Amazing, So, he says here, practicing patience with the method and wisdom is accumulation merit and accumulation wisdom together. So there's no merit. Even the Buddha were to walk in his holy form, Rupagaya in his room, we bow down, do all of that, still the merit would Buddha say, I rather you practice patience in everyday life than holding this long kata in front of me. This is just custom. This is just customary courtesy to greet a Buddha. But you should really treat the sentient being much nicer, patient. I prefer you to do that. So real meritorious patience is the practice of patience. Even the meritorious, even the devotional ones. We're not saying we shouldn't do the devotional ones. Devotional ones is training us so that in front of the Buddha we are so meritorious, so devotional. But as a result of that, we just able to do the sentient being. Then we are truly meritorious. Truly meritorious. If you saw somebody practicing patience, say among our community or individuals, if someone be a little bit losing their sensibility or whatever, and one of them patient didn't retaliate, didn't say they're wrong, but still very gentle and kindness, you wouldn't believe how much inspiration all your friends will get. You see one of our practitioners doing very kind, very selfless. It inspires each other much more than the number of hours they meditate, number of mantras they recite, number of generosity they practice. Of course, these things can inspire too. But most importantly is who is able to practice. Most meritorious thing is practice patience. Because this is Zopata Ukotume. Like Shantideva says, there's no great practice like patience. There's no great practice like patience. This is not practice talking of patience just with difficult people. It could be yourself, with yourself practicing patience. Just sit there 2 hours without moving and do your whatever. And just do something really, really patiently without making qualms or making too difficult for each other, Just being able to do that. Practicing patience. You can see a lot of people doing that. You can see that, consistently doing that. And from that point of view, that is most meritorious. You can see that kind of practice. That's a real practice of Dharma. Real practice of Dharma, you can't count. You can't say, I did 400 patience today. Oh, it took 3 hours. Gosh, I wish the practice was a little shorter. See, so deceptive, the practice. Really. Patience is non-practice practice, Non-practice practice. It is the, sonam de hiji tsoksobal tsokyidubawo, Accumulation merit and wisdom together. That is the highest accumulation merit. Even in front of all the Buddhas, even in front of the majestic merit field, you might do some fantastic prostration. You might do amazing mandala offering. You might do all the prayers, amazing. But that's just a formality. But with the needy sentient beings who are faltering, who are so injured, who are not coping well, if you practice patience with them, all the Buddhas will sing, all the Buddhas will throw flowers at you, and that's far more meritorious than anything else. That's what it's talking about, the practice. How practice of patience is the merit, So if you have to be somewhere and do work and cannot do the formal practice because everybody's doing, you can't join, don't worry about it. You're not missing anything. You must miss the talk. Maybe you miss us. We can't have the tea party together or have little hugs or whatever. Australians are very good at hugging each other. They really miss the hugs because of the social distance. It just makes them feel like wanting to hug somebody. You think that's a practice of some... No. Real practice is the distancing. Real practice is the distancing and being patient with that and do whatever you have to do and not minding that. And practicing patience is the highest meritorious. Sonamtan ishiji sosoban soyiruba. This is Rongton saying, amazing, He's to the point. He's actually talking to us all that we all lack patience. So this is not some teachings relevant to some people, others not. I'm not interested to that talk. I have lots of patience, so I don't need any. Everybody realized, oh gosh, I never thought you can practice patience like that. I thought you just do 100,000 prostration and then you think I finish it. You think these are the practice things? These are cultural Buddhist practice. We are not dismissing them, saying we shouldn't do. Of course we should do that. And the devotion, we should keep that tradition, respect them, learn properly, encourage each other to practice, but we need to see what's next, So what does it mean, What does it mean? The true accumulation merit is when you're patient with your people or your work colleagues or family members or difficult person, a stranger or whatever. Practicing patience with that, if you work in defense department, that's a wonderful meritorious practice. That's a merit field. All your colleagues in uniforms are your merit field. Or even those who are not in uniform also are your merit field. So you don't need to have the visualization of all the ancient people in the sky before you. I mean that's a much harder job to do. You don't have to visualize all the ancient people. You don't even have to visualize these damn people. They're always there at the desk in front of you every day. Yeah, your merit field is always there. And there you need to practice patience. So there you need to feel, oh, my boss, or my colleague, or my this, and be kind to them, be tolerant with them. They haven't got Dharma, poor thing. Oh, they got lots of competitive, me first, to try to be so meticulous according to the text. Oh, driven by these little boxes they have to fulfill. They have no Dharma. That's why they're so faltering. That's why they're so not coping very well. And then you feel compassionate to them. If you do that, that is meritorious practice. That is the most meritorious practice, so sometimes practice in a non-practice situation. There's much practice happening. Much more practice happens when you have heard Rongton enough. You have to have Rongton enough. Then you realize, yes, now I can practice Dharma wherever, not just in front of the Buddha or with my fellow practitioners or whatever. You really need to practice. You wouldn't believe how relevant these teachings are. This is what the Dharma is. Dharma is so good. Not only listening, better even when you think like this on your own, and even better when you put this into practice. Then you would taste much better than the sample you're tasting tonight, or sample from reading. You wouldn't believe how delicious the Dharma is. It's called insatiable. Dharma is insatiable. Those who see the Dharma, they couldn't see any problem. They see only truth in it. And means those who have faith, every time they remember, they feel so delightful. They feel so joyous that they have the Dharma. That this wisdom will not be matched or be suppressible by any other wisdom or knowledge or anything like that. Nothing can compare with this usefulness and practicalness and compassionate, harmless, and so much truth. It's never aging. It will never age, by the way. That's why His Holiness Dalai Lama very confidently said, if scientists can prove Buddhism wrong, maybe Buddhism will change. He's saying this out of confidence. He says that if scientists are checking with facts, they will repeatedly go to validate the truthfulness of Dharma. They're not unintelligent people, and he says he's just saying, come on, scientists brothers, come to check the Dharma. We're quite willing to change if there is really, he's saying that, why? Because he says that it is those who have amazing intelligence, wisdom. They can never suppress Dharma, but they always learn more good from each other. And no matter how much powerful or overwhelming things happen against you, it will not daunt you. You'll be completely boosted, and you'll be completely equipped to deal with those things. Yeah? Amazing. Dharma is, they say, Dharma, Buddha, qualities of Buddhas are inconceivable. Quality of Dharma is even more inconceivable. Sanghas who fathom these qualities even more inconceivable. This inconceivable thing that you have discovered, if you're to employ this in your everyday life, you will be inconceivably benefited. Inconceivably benefited. So practicing patience is the highest accumulation merit. This is the point, yeah. And then the last one of the four practices is a renunciation practice. And by practicing patience, all the antithesis of patience will be renounced. All the antithesis of patience will be renounced. So that refers to the four wrong conceptions. So you have to renounce the four wrong conceptions. If you renounce four wrong conceptions, then you have the perfect renunciation practice. So what are the four wrong conceptions? Hatred. Firstly is hatred. Hate, So you have to completely renounce the hateful, afflicted conception. So you have to renounce hate, basically. So that's first conception. Second is attachment to patience as the antidote. You shouldn't get attached to patience as the truly existing antidote. So if you do that, then you couldn't handle hate of other people, because you think you should have adequately existing patience, as if your patient never have to work with the opposite. You couldn't prove patience unless you have to work with aggression. So aggression, you shouldn't have aggression, but you have to be able to. You shouldn't reject aggression. If you reject aggression, you can't practice patience. So these two doesn't exist without each other. So therefore, you should not have this saying, I can't work with violent people or aggressive people. If you say that, that's the wrong conception. So if you practice patience, you should always say to yourself, this is an excellent opportunity to practice patience. I don't have enough of it. Even I believe in patience, I can never prove my patience to be adequate. Why? You don't see your patience as adequate antidote. So there's no truly existing patience in you that's ready-made, unless you meet with one who instigate you. So those are two: attachment to patience as antidote, truly existing antidote, and an aversion to hatred, aversion to aggression of others as truly existing opponent. No. Everybody needs someone who gets you. Every now and then, not every day perhaps. Every now and then. We were talking about Devadatta last week, isn't it? Buddha could never prove. Buddha was enlightened, all of that. But Devadatta's role became very kind of revelatory. How qualities of good Buddha's virtue is only manifestly when his cousin do all the opposite things. People don't grow or mature where there's no aggression. So where there's aggression, you have opportunity to develop patience. Your patience is not independently there, nor is aversion to anger. If you have aversion to anger, you haven't renounced. So that means you have the wrong conception, hating hatred. Hating hatred is not a patience, is it? So conception of hating hatred must be renounced. Yeah? And conception of thinking my patience is truly existing is also renounced. Because it doesn't exist, one doesn't exist with other. The third is grasping to both the problem and antidote is materialistic conception. So this means the problem and antidote. Yeah, problem and antidote as truly. I like patience. That's a wonderful remedy to patience. Remedy to hatred, something like that. But these two are problem and antidote. Problem and antidote. But if there's no application of that, there will be no problem that is a problem or a solution as a solution. So grasping to both the problem and antidote is the materialistic conception as they truly exist from their own side. And then that's the third wrong conception. Fourth is clinging to the mere imputation. Yeah, mere imputation is conceptual imputation. So most of the time people say, he was angry at me, didn't you see? So we really think that what person did is truly their existence just because people know he screamed or yelled or whatever. We think, and that just because somebody said he did, we think that's truly existing. So that's the imputational conception. So we need to renounce that. Without our imputing things doesn't even exist in the object. So that's really understanding how to renounce the mere labels. Because otherwise I practice patience. Otherwise there were a lot of troubles. So we attach to the imputation of patience. Imputation of being patient is a truly. So one shouldn't cling, and never. The person who practices patience shouldn't say, "I am a patient person." Because if he did, he's just imputing that he is always patient from his own side. So he's grasping to the imputation as he's a patient person. If somebody say you're a patient, you're a bit concerned. You're a bit concerned because you might have ownership, ownership of that. In this way, if one practices patience with, so that's the four conception from which one need to renounce from. Then, if you practice that, then of course, in this way, both with the difficult people or evil spirits or whatever hardships you have going through in your life, and being patient with them, with the above understanding of Four Noble Truths, with the help of spiritual friend, as well as the unification of method and wisdom and freedom from the four conceptions, then if you practice patience, it is the practice of patience. And the practice of patience analogy is ocean, yeah? Ocean. The ocean is the ocean is the analogy of the actual practice of patience itself. Now, ocean is very deep, and surface is very turbulent, but deep down is very peaceful. It doesn't mind whether it's a dolphin comes or small fish come this way or that way. Ocean just let everybody come. It's so vast or so deep. It doesn't really complain and who came, who didn't come. It's boundless, isn't it? So your practice of patience is like a ocean, ocean. So if one practices patience with both the enemy and evil spirits and sickness and your illness and your other difficulties you go through, that you be patient. So meaning you do not complain about your sufferings or people or things like that. Why? Because there's so much suffering anyway, so it's not a new news. It's old news. so therefore, like ocean never says, "Oh, there's a fish in there today." I can't handle the fish anymore. This ocean doesn't care. It's got so much space for any fish to come in, including all the sewer from the Varanasi also go in the ocean. It doesn't matter. The ocean is amazing. Everybody dumps everything in the ocean. Did you notice? If you go to Varanasi, all the sewer of Varanasi. This is 9 million people, 9 million sewer. All the brown stuff go to the Ganges, and from the Ganges it goes to the ocean. The ocean completely clean. When you go to the lake and when you go to the beaches, the ocean is very clean. Why? It's so big and vast. They talk about how many meters deep, so deep. It wouldn't be easily perturbable by things. Ocean is so vast, so much. You're so selfless like ocean. You're so giving like so vast, so special. For example, the depth of ocean from ocean below 6 or 9 fathom is immovable. So that means above 6 or 9 on the surface, it's still a little bit choppy. You can see the choppy. But once you go deeper than 9 fathoms. 9 fathoms usually this, isn't it? Fathom is this. That's like 6 feet. 6 feet. That's like 18, 20 feet. 18, 20 feet, isn't it? 18, 20 feet. Some ocean might still be a bit choppy but below that, the deeper you go, more still and clear they are. Okay, is immovable. It's very, very still. Similarly, the yogi here is the practitioner. This yogi is not in the retreat. This yogi is in everyday the factory floor or whatever. Kitchen sink level, whatever. This yogi means not one with a long beard and a lot of gray hairs and say all sorts of words. It sounds very wise, but actually no. The yogi is the person who practice patience everyday life. Is a yogi. This is the yogi of the practitioner of patience. It doesn't mean you do a lot of yogas. That's called yogi. This is one who practices patience. Is the yogi. Why? Yogi in Tibetan, Naljorpa. Naljorpa means his abundance with the innate knowledge. He's abundant with innate knowledge. He's relishing that practice. So the yogi is who sees the merit in the practicing of the patience. Who practice patience will not be agitated or shaken by the harm and wrongdoings of other people. Because he knows it's not entirely what they're doing that is true origin of his sorrow. Yeah? Isn't it? The yogi is not shakable ocean. It's just, he knows, he says this, he does this, but that's not really cause of my suffering. My suffering is my own enmity towards him, my own self-importance. What he's saying is just a good test for me to check how much understanding I have or not. So then the yogi's got really something to meditate, yeah? So why the yogi is not like ocean? Because he can see. He can see what people doing doesn't really have the harm. Harm is not truly existing. See, he now knows emptiness also. He says, there's no harm that truly exists unless I myself is so offendable. I also don't exist truly. Offendable one, I'm now become a yogi. But I'm not a truly existing yogi either. He has to do all the lifting. They have to do all the harming and testing, teasing to me. Then only yoginess can be proven. I also do not truly exist yogi. Therefore, the yogi actually got a lot of balance, compassion, wisdom. And the yogi who practices patience will not be agitated, shaken, or harmed by anything what the other person does. Why? He knows the truth of suffering comes from blaming others and enmity to others, not by somebody. Somebody doing harmful to you is not the true origin of suffering. It may not even be suffering. Can you see now? It doesn't even cause you suffering. It doesn't even cause you suffering. Why? Because the origin is not there. Origin is enmity. So what they're doing is they're suffering. So their truth of suffering. So their truth of suffering is their origin of suffering. So they have ill will. Maybe towards their boss, maybe some stress at work, and now he's venting to you. This you understand. See? Now you understand the psychology of suffering, of their aggression to you is not cause of your suffering, but cause your compassion, cause your empathy. Yeah? So now this puts you to the truth of the path. Now you are able to practice truth of the path because you're not offendable. You're not causing the problem, and you're not object of the problem of other people. Why? Because you're not true origin of suffering. If he creates suffering, he suffers more than you. And why you should worry, So if you're also joining the suffering by you also digging your graveyard, so to speak, then you will suffer just as much. Now you don't. Why? You have the refuge. You have the refuge. From no danger of retaliating. Why? Because you don't have the true origin of sorrow is not there. Why? You're following the truth of the path. Why? How can you follow the truth of the path? Because you can see the truth of suffering in the others. And how inept they are in knowing how their suffering is caused by their own childishness, and they don't know that. See, now you're really, really fit. You're really fit to practice the patience with the method and wisdom. With the method and wisdom, that's why you are like an ocean. That's why you couldn't be shaken. Couldn't be shaken. Even if all undesirable things fall upon him, he will still be not perturbed. Shakyamuni Buddha did that under the Bodhi tree. He was attacked by every single cow herders. Blow a trumpet in his ears, poke needles in his ears, do all sorts of things you wouldn't believe. We have somebody just popping by. We say, you're coming. We're so impatient. Who the hell are you disturbing my meditation? You try to meditate, they are having party over there. And all the noise comes. That's a good opportunity to practice patience. So whether you think, they're disturbing my meditation, Oh, they're having in the beginning of the evening it looks like a party. Later on it's going to be a squabble. Oh, later on might become a big brawl. Oh, you never know what they're up to, poor thing. So instead of disturbing your meditation, you know what I mean? Instead of you being disturbed by your meditation being disturbed or sleep being disturbed, it doesn't matter whatever you do, it doesn't have to be meditation. Some people aren't. Most people are not meditating anyway. They're still complaining about neighbor. All the problem people have with neighbor is a very good merit field, Neighbor is a good merit field to practice patience, So you check whether you are perturbable or not, whether you are shakeable or not. Odd hours, they call odd hours. Odd hours. If they're making noise such odd hours, you can see either they're having a reasonable party to celebrate, or they're going to have a big problem soon. It's usually all parties deteriorate very badly, don't you think? Most parties are nice at the beginning. Oh, toward the middle of the night, it's starting to deteriorate. Then all the drink bottles everywhere. And now they might even throw the bottles on each other's head. Yes. You have seen those things all so far too many times. You feel so compassionate. It's noise they make is not an issue at all, but the kind of problem they are already drowning themselves with drinks, so many bottles. Could you believe those people? How much they buy those drink? The boot is all full with drinks. And it's to benefit whom? Just drowning into this kind of alcoholic stuff people think, but they don't realize. So, and then when people are, even sober people become deluded. And of course, intoxicated people, double deluded. So you can see the true origin of suffering is their greed, their desire, their kind of enjoyment, or what they want to do. They think they're going to enjoy the party. Yeah, at the beginning it looks like there is enjoyment. Later on, at the very beginning they meet and greet at the door. Nice to meet you. Was lovely dress, whatever. Oh gosh, later on, escaping from each other. So you can see truth of suffering and truth of origin in the making, before your naked eyes all the time. And you have the truth of the path to practice patience, unperturbed, unshaken by that. Why? Because you're not going to be perturbable. You're not going to be so affected by that, but you actually predispose yourself to practice patience with them. Then you say, that's why your patience is like a deep ocean, should not be shakeable, should not complain. It's not that people don't have problem, but his question is who complains, who doesn't. There are lots of people who don't complain, but they're actually they're resenting. They're not complaining, but resenting. So lots of people practice patience. I must say, Nemi sopa mebene, in Shantideva's word. Nemi sopa mebene. He says the patience without wisdom is despicable patience. He says it's a waste of effort. Most people practice patience, but it's idiot patience. They practice patience on the day or in that week or whatever, then subsequently seething with resentment. So that's why it's mebene. Mebene means it's a disparaging stock. It's worthy of disparaging. It's a waste of any patience. You practice patience there. You didn't say anything. You even say yes, but deep down you're seething with resentment, and that's what hurting people more. So nemizuba mepene. A lot of people are patient on the surface, Maybe to keep the job, maybe keep the position, maybe keep their friendship on the outside, but deep down, no way. This is hurting them much more. So that's because they lack wisdom, That's why they lack wisdom. Because they have conceptual attachment or aversion to the wrongdoing of other people, and conceptual attachment that I'm patient. So those 4 things we were talking about, very, very important. It's very, very small, short in the word, but when you think like that in application, so why you are now resentful? Because you're still hating them. You still think they harmed me. So you have conceptual attachment to the object as truly existing. And you have the conceptual attachment thinking, I practice patience then, I forbear, I didn't do anything. And then one is almost, one is aversive that I practice patience. As if you regret you practice patience. See? And so there is double aversion. One to the object, another that one practice patience. So the patience is completely poisonous. So that kind of patience is despicable. Mebene in Tibetan, mebene means objects of ridicule. You should ridicule that kind of patience. That's why practice of patience has to be understood in this context of 4 Noble Truths and armoring the intention, application like the fire, and with the help of spiritual friend and teachings of the Buddha and being sort of explained and one understand and then one realize, wow, then you have this self-realization spiritual friend. You realize, you yourself realize the teaching through your own checking and testing, so much so that you really have a knowledge that's so valid and useful. Then you honor the Buddha, then you honor the lineage, then you validate the Dharma, and then your refuge is inconceivable, Previously, when first you took refuge, you thought it was really lovely. I think I was a Buddhist in the past life. I think I really got it. It's like an emotional thing, Later on, this amazing, just unfolding and repeatedly, just gem after gem after gem, And so this is where you truly discover, And so, a lot of people practice patience. Don't get each other wrong here. I'm not saying people, they're a lot of people very patient, they do a lot. But they're seething with resentment. I had to do this, Then this is like a pebble in your shoes, Nice shoes, but you got a pebble in it, You polish the shoes, matches the dress, but inside is a pebble. So every step you take, it's hurting your little toes, So you have to stop and take out the pebble out. Don't worry about the look of the shoes. What's inside the shoes? The shoe doesn't fit you. So quite a lot of people practicing patience that doesn't fit their mind because they haven't heard the teachings how to live. Practicing patience, how to live, spiritually and dharmically, and with the true living, true living. You might need a roof over your head, you might cloth on your back, food in your mouth, but still, if you don't know how to practice patience, those 3 are pretty. It's not much different from the cow munching the grass. Cows also know somewhere to go and take shelter and eat grass, shelter, food, medicine. It's not very surprising achievement of the human being. Human being must learn how to not to let their soul or spirit to be beaten up by one's own hate and ill will and unskillful practice of patience. It's impure patience we're talking about. Impure patience. The impure patience is purified by the armored bodhichitta, by the correct practices. So all of those facets we talk about is so that our practice of patience become not poisoned by wrong motivation, by short-sighted expectation, or subsequent resentment, or regret. All these things are ruining oneself. That concludes the chapter or teaching on the practice of patience. And now we're going to move to the next chapter. Next chapter is the perfection of diligence. Perfection of diligence. Diligence here also we will look at firstly how to armor the intention. The word armoring intention is very important. They talk about double glazing the windows. Very good. I think this double glazing the windows, very good. And particularly in Canberra, it's very important. Double glazing the windows. Yes, you should triple glaze your attitude. You have to triple glaze your attitude. Triple glazing your attitude, and then the implementation, then the application of the of diligence. Yeah, first, in order to triple glaze your practice of diligence, you should have good determination, like the earth. You should have you have to have a reliable diligence. You do, not do too much and all of a sudden nothing after, like that. Consistently, a little bit, slowly. If you can't increase, don't decrease. Don't be so quick, diligence so quickly, all of a sudden run out of steam. That's not diligence. So it should be like earth. Means it's always stable. Always you have feet to stand on. Your feet, you can, it's because of earth-alike. Your reason to practice patience, reason to practice diligence, any good you do, and the motivation, the intention should be unchangeable, like gold. In intention with which you should practice diligence, say to care for your loved ones, or to do something for each other every day, or every week, or every periodically, whatever. All this diligence that you have all shown to be on this class is a diligence. You definitely have the goal-like diligence, a goal-like intention. Particularly those on Zooms are very diligent because they don't have to worry about the weather. They don't have to, those people who are here at least have to come through the traffic or whatever. Maybe at home also you still have to negotiate with the various other things, because there's a lot of others. They say, oh, I got that show on Wednesday night. I showed that Tuesday. They were diligent. It's not people who are lacking the diligence, but diligent in something else. So I think Milarepa said, he says, I'm not talking about lack of diligence, he says, I'm talking about misplaced diligence. Most people have diligence, but diligence to do other things, to diligently, consistently like a gold, consistent like once a week, or once a month, or whatever you do regularly. That consistency is the gold, is gold-like motivation, and also that motivation also is not just goal-like quality, but when it met with the antithesis, met with the obstacles, met with the difficulties, met with challenges, it doesn't discourage you. So, in not discourageable, but waxing like a moon. Even things are very difficult, you still make up for the time you missed. One gentleman was here this afternoon. He said, he and his sister, they have to drive, 2 hours after finishing the meditation. And then if they stayed here, it would be midnight, by the time they get home. So we were saying, no, don't worry. You can watch the YouTube. He says, really? I said, yes, you can watch YouTube. And then he says, I watched the first one. So I said, it's just two more, and then this is the fourth one. And all right. He says, yeah, that's good. It's like that. So you got to encourage each other not to miss one. Don't say, I missed the first 3 lessons, so I might have to do another time. I'm sure they'll do a repeat. That sort of thing, So one shouldn't do that. These days, the amazing technology everything is uploaded on the YouTube as well as on a Facebook. And of course, but those commitments, showing this kind of commitment as audience to each other is a form of diligence. But doesn't mean that you should disadvantage by not being able to do this. You should still go and listen to that other teachings or that you miss. This kind of consistent diligence is the core gold. It's like waxing moon that you're improving. That's called armored motivation to practice. Then the second is the engage bodhicitta. That's the wishing bodhicitta. Yeah, armored bodhicitta is a wishing bodhicitta. Engage bodhicitta is application of the fire. Like when you're diligent, you really like a steam engine. You just go. Just like fire burns everything. You burn all kinds of laziness, all kinds of excuses. Don't say I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm busy, I don't have time today, I'll do late. All those things to be incinerated. All these things should be burned, and so on. And so that's called engage. That's called engage bodhicitta. Engage bodhicitta. So that's the first one, armoring bodhicitta and engage bodhicitta. And then next one is laying the foundation of the Four Noble Truths. So the suffering is the cause of suffering is the result of laziness. People who have lots of suffering, it's because of laziness they're suffering. And the true origin of suffering is their laziness. True origin of suffering is their laziness. They have lots of things they haven't done, and as a result of that, they just have no motivation to pick a new one. They're just daunted by failing again. So they're often depressed, often self-loathing, and that sort of thing. So the true origin of suffering is laziness, and the result is suffering, truth of suffering. And path is diligence. Practicing diligence is the truth of the path, and truth of the path. So in the eightfold path we have eightfold path. One of these is right effort. So diligence is the truth of the path. Practicing diligence in doing wholesome things. We're talking about diligence in wholesome things, and becoming free of laziness and excuses is truth of cessation. You don't have any kind of danger of making excuses and missing one, or not doing that again, not following that up. You don't have, even you're a little tired or not well, you can still sit in your bed and watch the Zoom. Very good. We don't envy you, but it's really good. I said, good on you, good on you. So that's so the diligence. So because you can't say I am not afraid, I have no bed to sit on, or I have no internet in my home. Some people don't have internet, but still they can still watch it other times. So. No excuses, So all the excuses incinerated. That's the truth of cessation. You have no laziness anymore. Very good. No laziness anymore because the diligence has been completely employed. So when you employ the diligence, you know what happens? What is the diligence like? There are three types of diligence. First is called armored diligence. Armored diligence is the motivation is so delightful. What do you want to do? You're so joyous. You're so joyous. So you are armored by the joyfulness you bring what you do. Sometimes we do, but you can see we really don't want to do it. We have to do it because we have to do it. It's got a lot of people say, "Oh, I have to go to work." They don't bring the joy. We're not talking about practicing Dharma as religion. Work is Dharma. Work is Dharma. Don't you believe? One of the highest Tibetan yogi practitioners, his job was to clean somebody's toilet. This is not talking about, bring some mop and, this is real shoveling the amazing sort of stuff in the pit of the toilet, pit drops, and they put that into some sack or something, and then carry and take somewhere. This kind of job. He was very diligent. His name is Rongton Sheja. He was teacher of Sachen Kongkong Nyingpo. His day job was digging human waste of every people home who needs him to. His job was that. But he was very diligent. He's very diligent because it needs to be done. Those people who clean the septic tank, you ring them, they're really diligent. Oh, they'll come and they have the gloves on, they got the gun boot on, they got almost willing to taste. Where is your thing? They're so interested to see you suck the whole thing out of your septic tank. So people need to be so diligent. Why? He's working for himself. No wonder why he's so diligent. So not that kind of diligence, There's a lot of that kind of diligence for oneself, But diligence altruistically doing for the sake of others. Maybe you're alone, nobody's there. That's called a lot of time. Yeah, it's very few people who will do these things willingly. Yeah, doing some things that others have neglected, others have not doing, and doing them with delight and joyfulness, and showing no weariness, no qualms, no resentment, and just do it with such a willingness everybody benefits so much from such people's work. But others do a lot, but it doesn't show much benefit because the person complains and resentful and show weariness and litany of complaint afterwards that doesn't benefit anything the person has done like that. Person who is done with such diligence, joyfulness, so that's called armored diligence. Yeah, so first one. Second is engaged diligence, is application. Not just intelligent, not just intention is armored with such goodwill and joyfulness, but when they do it with such speed and not excuses. No, it's laklen. Laklen means taking into the hand. But actively taking into hand and showing it delightful. Quite a lot of people do things, what they did benefits a lot of people. Other people do a lot, but doesn't benefit that much. Why? Because when they have engaged diligence is done with such a delight and joyfulness, willingness, then that work benefits many people. That's what Buddha's enlightenment is. He sat 6 years under the tree. During that, who benefited? Everybody worrying. Everybody worried in Kapilavastu, thinking that he's going to die of starvation or malnutrition or whatever, Temporarily, there was no benefit. Look at his intention was totally doing for the benefit of others. His intention was so armored. His engagement or actual practice was such a noble example. People in the late 70s, 80s, in a really elderly body, traveling thousands of miles just to bow down to the seat where Buddha sat and showed his diligence. Only difference between sentient being and Buddha is one who has perfected diligence, others who have lazy. Simple as that. There's a Drukpa Kunle, or this madman of Drukpa Kunle in Tibet, and he went to Lhasa, and then we saw the Shakyamuni Buddha statue. He was like a little bit of a yogi, a little bit of yogi. Everybody would come through the temple, take off their shoes, do all the culturally nice ways of paying homage to the statue and all they did. But he was really, really eccentric, He took off the shoes, but he didn't leave the shoes outside. He brought the shoes with him. And then he was so naive, He looked at the statue. He thought he was very big for a man. But everybody go and pay homage to him. He thought he was really a good man. So then he straight away said, first you and me equal, But I, due to my laziness, I'm still struggling in samsara. You, due to your diligence, you got enlightenment. Now it's my turn to prostrate you. He spontaneously said that. The only difference between people are who is diligent, who is not. So practice of diligence is there, but in motivation. Shakyamuni Buddha's 6 years sit. Many people have spent 10 years in retreat, 10 years in caves, 20 years in caves. Still, where's the result? I'm sure there are some results. We're not saying it's a resultless effort. But Buddha's perfect enlightenment came from this amazing good motivation. Good, meditation is to guard bodhicitta if you have it. First to conceive it and then just keep it. And then whether you're sitting, whether you're whether you're doing chanting or whether you do reading or whatever you do, you just with bodhicitta is keeping. Keeping the bodhicitta and diligence in studying, reading and listening and comparing notes to each other. Still with bodhicitta motivation, if you do that, that's the engaged bodhicitta. And the third one is insatiable diligence. Insatiable diligence means you never say, I've done my bit. It's time to put my feet up. It doesn't discriminate between what is diligence. You may do other things too, but they are also just as important, just as motivation. Even having a rest for the sake of sentient beings is a very good one. if I'm tired, I can't really benefit sentient beings. So I should rest with bodhicitta motivation. Put your feet up. Very good. so see, that's called insatiable. Insatiable diligence. Insatiable doesn't mean when you're doing this, it's only Dharma. When you do other things, are not Dharma. When you have the bodhicitta motivation, even you're taking rest could be a diligence. You could still keep your bodhicitta motivation insatiably. So those are three, yeah? The armored diligence, engaged diligence, and the insatiable diligence. Go strength to strength, strength to strength. And if you endow these three are the reason the sequence should be. You should think about why these three diligence are given in this sequence. The armored diligence seems like it has to never mind the difficulties. It has to put earliness or length or repetitiveness, whatever the case might be. So you're armored, isn't it? When you're wearing the helmet, whether it rains, it doesn't mind, because you're covered, Likewise, you have armored bodhicitta, so nothing, whatever heat or cold or, Buddha had to put up with all the armored bodhicitta, You have to put up all this difficult. So he's completely armored with the right bodhicitta motivation, and diligence is there. And then when he's really engaging, doing it, it's not perturbed, it's not shaken by anything. So he's completely engaged. He's just get on with it, and that's it. There's no intention to turn back or lose your heart or death of a motivation at the middle. It's not like that. Engaged. So first start, and again second engage, third is insatiable. So you can see the incremental level of the development of the qualities. Three types. It says that if one has these three types of diligence present, then all virtues will increase, and you will witness the yielding success and change and shift and tone of your mind. It will also be the root of all the qualities. It says all qualities without exception will follow one who has diligence. Yeah. So its best kind of asset is diligence, This Tibetan ordinary saying, if you have diligence, you can make a hole to the rock with the one finger. So, doesn't mean you have to try with one finger, but just even impossible things will be possible. Yeah, impossible things will be possible. Thus it said. Finally, one should walk on the path with the gait of an elephant. So it means you should practice diligence with elegance. Like elephant walking, there's no really, elephant gait is like very, very, very elegant, walking. So you should practice diligence with elegance, not like a strenuous. And the practice of diligence shouldn't be strenuous. Even if one is wearied and exhausted, elephants always walk on a particular gait, So like that, you don't do too much too soon and get exhausted quickly. There's kind of steadiness with which you practice. So analogy, practice of patience was ocean. For diligence, it's diamond. Diamond is the example. So if you have a piece of diamond, these days men also wear diamond, They must have a man who gives the diamond. Women, all women in the West always have a diamond somewhere. The diamond should be remembered. My bodhicitta, my practice of diligence should be like a diamond. Why? Diamond is not breakable. Its value is always increasing. So it means your practice of diligence should be precious like a diamond. Diamond can, surpass the value of any other stones, There's no match to it. Likewise, your practice of diligence is no match to any obstacle. Any obstacles called late or whatever repetitive, you don't make qualms about any of them. No kind of obstacle can deter, discourage, and harm. And harm, yeah? So you're very, very indestructible. Similarly, the yogi, so the analogy is a diamond. Similarly, the yogi who possesses the perfection of diligence is indomitable by any obstacles, be it humans or nature or illness or whatever. You still are not discouraged by things, but instead you overcome, and you do not let any of the excuses get you, but you overcome them. So, to be able to do this fittingly, you need to rely on the help of virtuous friend, spiritual friend. We were talking before, and then so here first is, even though the fully enlightened virtuous friend is the exalted virtuous friend one, so that's fully enlightened one is enlightened virtuous friend. One should train in the perfection of diligence by following the oral instructions that has come from the Buddha down through the lineage, since one cannot actually see or hear the Buddha himself. So therefore, one need to rely on the history, the succession of lineage masters. After having realized the meaning of what the Buddha said, and others heard, and they said, "What I've heard, thus I've heard," and then they teach us, and so on. Were taught. A human virtuous friend has passed this knowledge to each other till today. So you must appreciate that kind of role. Having understood and realized the meaning that has been passed down through the oral lineage, by the individual virtuous friend, meaning human virtuous friend, self-realized virtuous friend must be discovered from one's own practice. So we need to develop self-realized virtuous friend. That is in yourself. You realize yourself. You can say, and then you have this amazing comprehension, amazing understanding. The understanding that you are having from Dharma listening is actually seeing someone becoming more of your mentor now. Now, every time you switch on to the Dharma, you have a resident teacher. You have a resident teacher in your home. Because you're always connected with the human teachers, and the human teachers is connected to the lineage of the enlightened teachers' knowledge, and so you have gas at home. Very good. They say, "Do you have gas in your street?" You say, "Yes, very good." Do you have Dharma in your street? You should say, "Yes, I have." Very good. You have Dharma at home, Dharma in your street? Yes. Why? Because you're connected. You're connected. I don't know whether the service provider is Origin or whichever well, it doesn't matter, does it? They bring the real gas. They bring the gas. Oh, that's good. So you got gas in your street. The gas comes all the way from some far. You wouldn't believe how far it come from. And it took so long to discover that damn gas. And now you have gas in your street. You just switch it on, and you don't have to use old wet wood to make your fire, or to cook your food, or you dry your clothes. No, you just switch on. See now you got Dharma in your street. Very good. So Dharma in your street will help you to understand the perfection of diligence. Even these days, people don't want to cook food. They always wanted to process food. Running gas, sitting there, still don't want to cook real food. They want to eat some processed food. This is lazy, don't you think? I'm not saying people shouldn't eat other processed food diligently. Diligently eating processed food doesn't need much diligence, except opening the can. They're usually cold, actually. Yes, warm meal is very important. Dharma, living Dharma is very important. book knowledge of Dharma is very different. They said, some people I met, they say they're Buddhists, but they never done any retreat, they never received any teaching. They read lots of books. I think their thinking is Buddhist, And but those who have traveled with friends who are Dharma students among their community and travel or learn from teachings or various teachers, and you can see that then their comprehension and appreciation of Dharma is much more different, because it comes from the unbroken transmission. So this is what we're talking about: the virtuous friend, enlightened virtuous friend, human virtuous friend, self-realized virtuous friend. And when you have realized the Dharma, then you have the diligence in you. You wouldn't believe how you better manage your time in a day or a week, how much you put aside to practice, study, how much you do better your normal day jobs with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of cooperation and tolerance and compassion and generosity. Very good. This is. Then not only you got gas in the street, but you cook some warm meals and feed your friend. Very good, very good. You wouldn't believe how much a friendship is enhanced by giving each other a warm meal. So, like that, like what we were talking before, this practice of diligence too, with the help of a virtuous friend, and particularly your self-realized virtuous friend that is resident now in the street. Very good. No, this resident is not in the next city or next town, in your street. That's what a self-realized virtuous friend. That is your own maturity. Your own maturity. You see, Dharma has two types of Dharma: scriptural Dharma and realization Dharma. If you have the realizational Dharma, Tokpe, then you have the self-realizational Dharma. Self-realization Dharma is the Tokpe. Yeah? You realize the truth of Dharma. You see the truth of Dharma, not just mere belief. Not just believing blindly and thinking, yes, Buddha said this, but you haven't actually realized their truthfulness. If you have realized their truth, you have applied this balm. How effective it is on the lacerated or in the infected part of the body. You can hear, you can see how much quickly your infected part of the body is healed. You've practiced that balm so quickly. You're going to buy three bottles next time. Why? Because it works. You're going to gift your friends. Oh, you use this one. Oh, you wouldn't believe how people promote those creams to each other. Wait until you promote the cream of Dharma. Cream of Dharma is not an ointment. Not an ointment. It comes from realization. Lots of you think a lot, don't you? You wouldn't believe how educated Westerners are. They read so much. They understand the science fiction so well, but they don't understand Dharma. Of course, they will, only if they read it. The mind is trained for it. Only thing is they need to get the gas in the street. Then they will use it. So they have to have Dharma in their life, and they'll practice. And they will find completely as if you really need to study and sit and meditate a bit more, and the realization of the truthfulness of Dharma validates again and again and again and again. We call Yang Takpe Tawa in Tibetan. Right view is, again, it's a perfect view. Again and again. It's repeated. No matter how many times you test, it repeatedly revalidates you. It never proves one day wrong, other days okay, other days not okay again. Dharma is evergreen truth. Evergreen truth, So one needs to practice diligence with this understanding. And same, I'm going to finish off this chapter tonight, because the theme is exactly the same. So you need to also integrate the practice of diligence with the method and wisdom. If one engages the practice of diligence with the realization of the wisdom of non-conceptualization of three circles, meaning object, subject, and action of diligence, you should not see them as conceptually truly existing. existing by themselves. They're all interdependent. Then one will not abide in the extremes of cycle of samsara, meaning that you will not practice patience and then, diligence, and then think you've been diligent, others are not, and then you feel, why should I do more? That kind of thing. So you will not fall into that because you do not see who and what and the action as truly independently exists. That you see that mutually. And if diligence is employed with compassion, then it will be considered as a diligence that will not abide in the extremes of nirvana. So, if one doesn't abide in samsara, another doesn't abide in nirvana. So that is called union of method and wisdom. So, these two should be practiced with the four practices. Four practices. The armored diligence with the right motivation, right determination, and the unchangeable motivation that you employed is the armored practice, and the actually doing diligent thing every day is the engaged diligence practice, like the fire burning the fuel. Your diligence get rid of laziness, procrastination, and all the excuses. So that's the engaged practice. And the third practice is merit, accumulation merit. When you practice diligence, you feel meritorious. Oh, you've done this so quickly, so happy, that's done. You feel good about yourself, and as a result of that, you employ method and wisdom together. And so when you're diligently doing your practice regularly, not only doing from this hour to that hour, but quality of intention with which you do so willingly that you don't feel tired even in the middle of the practice. You just have this amazing sense of meritoriousness, joy. The joy just lifts, towards the end of that thing, maybe you're a little tired, but during that practice, you never go tired. So that's the kind of a sign of a meritorious diligence. Diligence is meritorious because you didn't feel any kind of show of tiredness during the practice because you're so willing. It just lifts your spirit up, and it's so meritorious. You feed yourself, you wash yourself, you clothe yourself, you buy nice clothes. For what? Do some work, so to speak. Do some work. And that work is meritorious. You did something, you feel good. That's done, and that's meritorious. And also, every time you do something, it benefits people. Every action has a benefit to other people. When your intention is so good, when you're doing it so selflessly for others, I have to profoundly believe this, When your intention is that nobody need to notice how many hours you put, least they know is better, actually. you just slowly do it delightfully. You wouldn't believe how meritorious it is. You wouldn't regret even if you die tomorrow. I tell you that. You would not regret. You don't have even a single regret because you try your best and that's it. And you would have not any qualms against you. Why? Because you have put your diligence as the most meritorious possible. The joyous effort, they call. When people do with such delight and willingness, you wouldn't believe how much inspiration they get from Sangha and friends to each other when somebody does with such willingness. Even the people who you pay to do the jobs, when they do with such delightfulness, joyfulness, with pride in the job, you feel so happy, isn't it? So this we're talking about. And then, of course, your diligence should renounce the four wrong conception. Four wrong conception. Four wrong conception is you are diligent, very good, but you are always talking how lazy this person is. And if you're doing that, you have that problem. Deluded conceptualization about lazy people. One used to be like that before. They have a huge potential. You actually should show. There's a lot of substance for diligence here. Instead of saying there's a truly existing lazy people. Oh, there's a lot of potential. Very good. Don't you think it's really nice? So you don't have this wrong conception the laziness is truly existing, See, this is what Drupal Kunrig says. Before you and I was equal, he said. Because now you become so diligent, you got enlightened, I also am now prostrate to you. So he has to stop being lazy. So you don't see the laziness as truly existing imputation. So no deluded conception regarding laziness as truly existing. Because of that, also no deluded conception thinking you have a truly existing diligence by itself. So no conception, no antidotal conception as diligence is truly existing by itself. Diligence is only applied because people have the laziness. I mean, you don't need to talk about, if people can't relate to this teaching of diligence unless people have laziness, you know. So people say, yeah, that's good. So then that, you can't have an audience unless the audience has the issues, you know. So they can all relate to these are not some new audience talking about. In the old days they were lazy. In present day, we can drive the car 120 miles a kilometer, but we reach much quicker than the old days. Still we reaching much quicker places. We're doing many things by mechanized, but still we have lots of things never get done. So I don't know how much technology has advanced. Not much, I would say. Some, of course. So not grasping to the antidote as truly existing. Antidote and problem are mutually inclusive. Clinging to the problem and antidote and materialistic conception, So clinging to the problem. One moment the problem is being truly existing, another moment antidote is truly existing. When you do that, it's imputational conception. You're imputing them that they are independent to each other when they're not. They're mutually inclusive. So the fourth one is clinging to the mere imputation. Mere imputation is attachment to the conception imputation. So talking about, I'm so diligent or he's so lazy, and then if somebody tells you lazy, you really take offense, So that's imputational conception. You don't like to people calling you lazy, But if people call you lazy, it doesn't. You have renounced that. You don't mind that. So that means you have no attachment to the conception of laziness being you, or anybody else. So renouncing these four wrong conceptions is the practice of renunciation. Practicing the renunciation. So the practice of the diligence in not just talking formal practice of Dharma, maybe at your work. Maybe your work, just see that, a lot of the time people's attitude towards their work is really not good. They think it's a job as they have to do, otherwise, they will do this instead type of thing, So I think a lot of practitioners, had to do all sorts of roles. You wouldn't know until you do that. You wouldn't know what the other person had to do all those years, and then we learn. He did all of that. I thought it was much easier than I thought. Wait until you do it, then you realize what the other person has been doing. Quite a lot of people have read, when you do organization like ours, various people take different roles. Then they realize, I didn't realize he was doing this much. And then we're starting to rejoice their effort, and we also then find a little bit more motivated and inspired by other people's activities or duties and roles, and we have no idea what's really like to do other. So some kind of shifting and sharing the roles and responsibility gives us a good appreciation of other people's diligence and lots of generosity and kindness, and even sometimes they don't want to do anything at all. You don't think they are lost, They they need a break, for instance, because that job they did was quite difficult when you have to do it. So yet they did it all those years, and then you realize, oh, they do maybe need a shift and change, and so we are not so negative about somebody, let alone thinking they are truly existing people who don't do anything anymore. They're lazy type of thing. We don't, because if you do, you have deluded conception as about laziness being truly our problem. And the problem is not truly existing. Even laziness is not truly existing, let alone the antidote. That is the perfection of wisdom. That is the method in wisdom. The wisdom element have to bring to that. And of course, when we are able to integrate the method and wisdom, compassion and wisdom together, we practice diligence as a diligence of virtue. We overcome the problem of laziness. But when you overcome the problem of laziness, how soon can you overcome the problem of laziness? You could be not lazy on one area job, but you could be lazy in other areas. So we are talking about that kind of a insatiable diligence that you can do. You're quite willing to do whatever role you have to do, whenever you have to do. So you're not picking and choosing. Some things you do, some things you won't do. So that kind of versatility definitely is something to aim to be able to have insatiable diligence. So it's like a diamond. Diamond is timelessly very, very, very precious stone. Insatiably precious. You can't say one country you take the diamond, there's no value. Another common country, there's a word of value. Not like that. Wherever you get it, diamond's always valuable, isn't it? Likewise, when your patience is whether you're doing this, whether you're doing this, whether you're not so expert in that area, you still do it with such willingness. Maybe you don't have to do so long to the backbreaking, but during the time you did do it with such diligence, And so that kind of a studiousness in which one is learning can greatly boost. So that concludes the fourth chapter on the practice of virya paramita. Virya paramita is a Sanskrit word virya. I think it's cognated with the English word vigor. Vigor is a little bit forceful, I suppose. Vigorous sounds like a bit, but translation of Tibetan is joyous effort. Tsongang gyala towa was diligence is when you have a joyous effort in doing wholesome things. Joyous effort in doing wholesome things, so much so that you act like you're armored, you cannot be harmed, act like you're so engaged, so one-pointed, act like as you're so insatiably willing to do that, in totally for the benefit of others, like the Shakyamuni Buddha's amazing diligence in the meditating, in the doing the amazing long retreat, and renouncing all his comfort, positions, and so when we honor the Buddha, we honor his qualities. Buddha achieved and succeeded these qualities. Perfectly enlightened he's perfected by practice of generosity, perfect the practice of diligence, perfect the practice of self-discipline, and so on. And then only he become perfectly samyak sambuddha, perfectly fully enlightened one. And it is this month that we are remembering the infinite qualities of this enlightened one who did all of these and then taught these things. He didn't teach before he did, He did and then taught. He taught after realize. He wasn't teaching. He wasn't teaching before. And even when he got enlightened, he was a little bit hesitant to teach, Because what he realized is so relevant, but most people are so unconscious of its usefulness. They're so distracted by other material, mundane, worldly things. But when he did teach, he taught totally from what he himself mastered. So that's why this teaching came from the mouth of the enlightened ones, fully enlightened one. Some 2,565 years ago. That's a long time ago, We're not talking about 120 years ago. They go, historical town in Australia, historical school, historical 150 years, 130 years. Buddha is definitely historically, amazing figure. So we have good reason to rejoice. Everybody's company, everybody's diligence. Thank you very much for your diligence, listening and reading and studying, and most importantly, contemplating and applying this in your everyday activities has an enormous merit. Particularly, we dedicate the merits for the sake of all other sentient beings who are in a very difficult situations, as we know. So please offer our prayers. Mahayana whatever merit I have, may hope becomes lovers to the Mahayana teacher, courage, manjush, as Ama Trabara de la follow all the example. I should get all the matter, excellent Bodhichitta, Tebe, and higher dancer, where has been made angry, freely with the generous. Thank you, everyone.